much goes on there, yeah. Oh, I like that. And we feel it. We don't have, oh, we have four.
Yeah, that's what I said. I was just waiting for y'all to get this running your mouth.
Yeah.
I'm just teasing. I'm just teasing.
We was doing,
I was just
let me turn my phone on, where is this at?
You got your map?
Hi,
Chris?
Laura, how
I
you?
think me and you sharing, because this is, I don't know what this is here.
I haven't even looked at it all yet.
Let me look at it real quick. These are the ones that's already open. Here's the ones already open.
Superintendent Jones, when you get started, just make sure you point out
Give us a few minutes.
what color,
We got a few more
what
minutes.
book, and where we are, so we can keep track. Because we got a lot of stuff here. We brought our other books. I don't know, at least I did. Crystal.
Support.
And then this book here.
Support.
Oh,
So
okay.
you need to call out what you want here.
What book?
I mean, man, I started looking over all this, and I was looking
lot.
at
It's a
it and
lot.
reading it. I said, that's it, Lord. That's enough.
But what's
I'm gonna
hard
go cut my grass.
is if you don't know what to pull out of it, you're
It's
reading
just-
the whole thing and it's
Yeah,
like,
you don't even know if you're getting really what you need to make an
All I
informed
do, we just take a glimpse, and then we'll go back and say, the administration did bulks of the work, which they supposed to do, and then we have those conversations.
Okay, so, yeah. Because they're really leading the ship here. We got, we have to,
And Chris Demarani, you remember when you asked for how the population of the children, where the kids at, and the
Yeah.
ones we have open, that's what this is about.
Thank you.
And this,
Where's Ms.
at the
Murphy?
bottom, you have each one of the
Thank
schools,
you, Ms.
and then it'll tell you what the, where the kids are, how they coming in from.
So the green dots is what?
Like student, kind of like where the
Okay.
kids are at. Not per student, but where the
Right.
kids are at.
Where the majority of them are.
yeah, it gotta be unlocked. Yeah, the meeting,
You got to keep it open.
no, that's against open meeting. You can't.
Yeah, you have to have that door open. That one, people can't come through.
Yeah, it's, somebody had told me that last week too. Yeah, somebody had told me, I was somewhere and they said they came over here, they seen all
Oh,
the
okay, we
cars,
can,
and when they tried to get in, they couldn't get in.
it was
And I
locked.
forgot
when
to,
we
yeah,
went
it
that door there.
it was locked.
Good afternoon. I would like to call the Flint Board of Education Workshop Section to order at 5:34. Board members, as I call your name, please say present. Vice President McIntosh is absent. Trustee Gibbard,
Yes, present, I'm sorry.
okay. Trustee Green is absent. Assistant Secretary Treasurer Dale Maroney.
Present.
Secretary Booth.
Present.
Treasurer McIntyre.
Present.
Myself, President Mike Neer. 5 yes and 2 absent. The board will now hear comments from the public. We ask that you state the reason for addressing the board and that you limit your remarks to about 3 minutes on matters within the authority of the board and not address individual by name. The presiding officer of the board shall have the right to limit the number of persons who may address the board on the same subject. Please state your name and address first before speaking. Is there anyone here from the public that wishes to speak? Thank you. Let's proceed to the agenda. At this time, I would turn the floor over to Superintendent Jones to lead the conversation regarding the vacant properties. Mr. Jones.
All right, good evening, board members, and good evening to our public, and also good evening to Mr. Philip Clark. Glad to have you here again.
Thank you.
You've done a lot of great work for us, and we just appreciate the time that we've been able to spend making a difference for our scholars. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
And our board thanks you as well. So, board members, I was not able to be at the last meeting, praise the Lord. But I did understand that you had some needs from the district. And so once we found out that the direction, we sat down and began to put together a sale, a keep, or a maybe list for the vacant properties. This is, again, preliminary to the conversations of where we would like to see new schools, where schools that we may determine to close. This is all a part of conversation, but we wanted to kind of give you a view of what you asked for is based on what we want to see in the future. We did not want to put ourselves in a situation to where we are getting rid of all of our properties and then we don't have a place to build, right? And so we thought about that. We thought about, one of the things that we thought about is location. And so some of the keep and the maybe, if you would like me to go down the list and speak openly about the maybes, the keeps, I can do that if that helps, because our public probably don't have these documents. Okay.
I would like to just go the keeps and the maybe.
Okay. All right. So, so we have in our keep section, we have Bryan Elementary, Carpenter Road Elementary, and McKinley Middle School. The reason why we have those in the keep is because of location. When we speak about Bryan Elementary is on Pearson Road. It is in a prime location for scholars. We also gave you the heat maps for each school. That is this document here. If you can look at me, you can see the heat maps. This tells you where our scholars are. It tells you where our current scholars are, meaning the scholars that go to our school for each school that we have, okay? So we gave you those heat maps so that we can look at where are Flint Community School scholars, where are they? And it tells you where they're coming from. And so when we look at Carpenter Road, we look at a school that is in a space where there is no schools. There's no schools over in that section. That's over by Bray Road, Carpenter Road, close to Bray Road, where the apartments are. There is no schools over there. We didn't just want to say, forget that area. I didn't want to just do away with it. I would like us to have some conversation about what we want to see for the future of Flint schools in that space, in that area. So we left that as a key because we don't want to lose focus of that space. And then McKinley Middle School is a school off the highway. It's in Eyes View. It's over by, what is that, Fenton and Atherton area. It's near Nethercutt. So when we look to the future, you have an opportunity for a large property of land to either for us to renovate and determine how we want to look to the future of that, make it a K-8 school possibly, and then you'll be able to put a lot of those scholars that may be at Nethercutt or schools near it in that space. It's a really nice area, space over there, and we can see it right off the highway. The reason why I'm kind of focusing in on location and off the highway and locations that are busy is because people will see those schools. And when those schools are seen, you have more likely of a chance of scholars coming in to be a part of those schools. And it also takes the neighborhood and bring life to the neighborhood. So that's the key. The maybes. Not sure what we're doing with Northern. I know that you all did not want to put the high schools on the sale list. So we're not sure what we're doing with Northern. We didn't want to get rid of Anderson, which is near Northern. until we knew what was going to happen with Northern. Okay, so we're not sure. We just know board members would not want to put our high schools on the list yet. So that's why Anderson is on the maybe list. Civic Park, as we looked, if you can look at this big document I put in front of you, it says September 2018 Flint Community Schools attendance areas. It shows you where we have schools, this document here. It shows you where we currently have schools. It also, if you have glasses, you might need it for what I'm about to say. If you look here, look at this here, over in this corner. Look at this corner, Pastor. Right over in this corner. That's Northern and Anderson. That's Northern and Anderson. The closest school that we have to Northern and Anderson is that's serving scholars is Durant Terry Mott and Doyle Ryder. Those are the closest schools. Now, if you know where Northern is, think about where Doyle Ryder is. If you know where Northern is, think about where Durant Terry Mott is. It's not as close as the map kind of makes you feel, right? And so there's no school, Flint Community School in that area. Now, I'm not saying that we need to build a K-8 or open up Anderson, but we don't want to take away the opportunity for us to think about how we want to re-envision that area, okay? So as we begin to sell off properties, we just wanted to keep some of these properties as a maybe, like Civic Park. When you look at where Civic Park is, if you go to this, it's in the purple. It's in the purple. And I'm going to point to it. Hopefully you can see where I'm pointing. Civic Park. Pointing to it. Civic Park is a nice size school and a nice property, nice size property. There are no schools in that area at all. No schools in that area at all. The closest school we have, again, is Doyle Ryder. It's Doyle Ryder. I'm only hanging on to these places just so we have opportunity to talk it through. All right? Cody, the land, Cody, over there on Fenton. I think Cody is closer to Nethercutt than even McKinley. But Cody's land is just, it's land.
Cody's on Fenton Road, right?
It is,
Yeah,
but it's just land. It was demoed.
Yes, it was.
So it's just land. I did not want to just get rid of that location because we can look to the future for something else. We might want to build something there, or we might want to sell that property or lease it, depending on what the board decides and how we can envision that. Didn't just want to let that go because it's already demoed, right? It's already clean. And then Longfellow. Longfellow is another school that is in the location of children. You know where Longfellow is. Let me see if I can find it on this map. Longfellow is near Ballinger. It's what street is that? Chevrolet. Yes, Chevrolet. Yep. So Longfellow is another property where you have children. And so look at the purple. The purple is where Brownell is serving all of that purple. That means from the area of, Brownell is near, what is that? Cloverlawn. You all know where Brownell, Cloverlawn. Yeah, what is it? Oxley Drive. And look where Doyle Ryder is. The closest school to all of these spaces is Doyle Ryder. And there's nothing over by Carpenter School. The closest school to Carpenter is Potter. And Potter is east. And I would say that Carpenter is northeast. So we have to imagine where we want to serve children. And the reason I gave you the heat maps is so that you can see where our scholars currently are. Now, one of the things that we need to do is find out where children are, period, and not concern ourselves with just the scholars that we currently serve. We have to look at that. That would be a next step for us, is to look at where children are across the city. Doesn't matter if they go to a charter, doesn't matter if they go to somewhere else outside of Flint schools, we need to find where all our babies are. And so that's our next move, so that we can then start imagining what we would want to do with the keeps and the maybes. So that's how far we've gotten, Board President, to kind of help with the conversation, and I hope that's helpful.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. That was very, very good information. So you can't, we're going by the agenda. We categorize what it is that we want to sell, keep, and maybe do the board have any comments or discussion regarding that conversation? Go ahead. This is the time to speak.
So one of the things I noticed is that, let me say that in the purple section there, it's underserved by buildings. And some of the buildings we're talking about holding on to or whatever, they're kind of clustered over towards the left and below. I don't know, what the total population is there. I don't know what size building we would need, but I don't know that we need to add more buildings.
Correct.
So that being said, anything that's a net decrease in buildings is going to be good, provided there's enough students to fill that building, because we could end up with one small building of 200 people and then add another building for another 200 or 300 somewhere else. But yeah, so anything that's a net decrease in buildings, I think would be good, provided the students are there. And I think the important thing is, I don't know if we know the age of the students on all these dots, but we need to be looking 2 to 3 years out as far as for building new schools or whatever. So they may be elementary today, but in 3 years, they're middle and high school, and they won't even apply here, or.
Yeah. And so as we had added, when we were talking about the strategic plan and the addendum and the information about new buildings and how we wanted to imagine Flint, it is 3 to 5 years out. Even if we get going soon with the opportunity for a grant proposal for a high school, we're still looking 3 years out. And so you're right. That is a great point, Mr. Del Moroni. However, this is an add-on to what you're saying. Trying to figure out, just because Brownell is open now, it doesn't mean we keep Brownell if we're looking to the future. Brownell is over in the corner, and we really need to start thinking about our schools being in central locations. We need to try to cover the Flint area and putting our schools in central location. When you look at Bryan, I'm gonna show you Bryan. Bryan Elementary is here. So when you look at all of those schools I named, Bryan Elementary is kind of like almost in the middle of the space between Brownell and Carpenter. And so that's why I'd say let's hang on to Bryan. Let's talk about that a little bit more. But we're trying to centralize, and what you also notice too is the schools that are open, they're all south. If you can see that, they're all south for the most part, and then you got Brownell over in the corner. Well, if we're going to imagine Northwestern, and this is an imagine, please don't take this as this is what this district is doing, and I'm saying that to the public and everyone else. This is an imagine. If we want to reimagine Northwestern, there's possibilities to reimagine Northwestern. After you look at how much it's going to cost to renovate, you might as well think about building a building on that property, keeping our space of the sports complex, the driver's training area, and reimagining either a K-8 or even a K-12. Because you got a K-12 right next door. Right next door. But Flint offers so much more than many of these schools that are around us, many of the charter schools that are around us. We offer so much more to our scholars. And for them to have an opportunity to come back to a new Northwestern and to imagine a new Northwestern, not renovated, but creating a new school, and being able to utilize Houston Stadium and the tennis courts and all of that space that we have there, that is a new way to think about that space. And so I know we've talked about renovating Northwestern, but after looking at the documents of $40 million to renovate that building, you might want to reconsider with, thinking about a K-8 or a K-12. That way, you're not utilizing Bryan, you're not utilizing homes, they're back up in the corner, right? And we're coming out into the open. That's just conversation.
I'd also like to reiterate that I'm very excited by what you said. This is beautiful. Thank you, Superintendent. I've had this vision of sitting here with maps, plans, charts, and getting the business of the district done, so thank you. A lot of the conversations we've had about renovations have been driven by the ESSER funds and ESSER requirements of trying to figure out what it is that we can do within the confines of what we've been tasked with. So it's not like we want A, B, and C. We don't want new schools. We want to renovate. All we're going to do is renovate. But those renovation conversations have been in the context of, here we are in an unprecedented situation with, an unprecedented influx of money that isn't just free money. It's very specific about what you can and cannot use it for. And so those conversations about renovation, it's like you said, I like the word imagine. I like that we are going back and forth between possibilities of, if we do this, then we do this. It's kind of like a logic problem, if and then. And so not to, like you said, limit us. Well, if we're imagining Northwestern, then that means it's it. And we are going to renovate and no new buildings, and that means no central. It's not what we're doing. We are just talking out because we are in an I keep repeating myself, an unprecedented situation, and we're trying to figure out the best possibility given the influx, the blessing that we have had with these resources, and to keep in mind what we would like in addition to that, or alongside, or at the same time, if that sort of makes sense. So to talk about renovations, it's not like we're stuck on renovations. However, we are stuck with particular money for particular things. So in order to use that money, and we talk about the dollars sunsetting, it can only be used for, A, B, and C, and not D, E, and F. So just to kind of, throw that out there. Thank you.
So in that reimagining conversation, Treasurer McIntyre, you also reimagine buildings you already have. Prime location. Scott is prime location. It's right off the highway. Scott could be reimagined as a brand new school that we tear down what we have and you build a state-of-the-art school in that prime location. Now, does that mean that we keep it Accelerated Learning Academy? Maybe not. Maybe Accelerated Learning Academy goes somewhere else and you build a K-8 there. I'm just trying to get us to kind of think about the locations we have and trying to make good on every spot. So you want to fill up those spots, you want those, it could be K5, it doesn't have to be K8. Because if you're going to do the central property, we haven't even decided if, is it going to be 9-12 or is it going to be 7-12, right? So those are all conversations we have to have, but I think this is a good start for us to kind of start imagining and thinking about where we want to go. So just to the public, and then I'll give it back over to Board President, the schools that we have on the table for an opportunity to sell is Cook Elementary, Dort Elementary, Garfield Elementary, Johnson Elementary, King Elementary, Lowell Middle School, Manley Elementary, Merle Elementary, Stewart Elementary, Washington Elementary, Williams Elementary, Wilkins Elementary, and Zimmerman Center. Those are the locations that we are looking to sell at this time from the administration. The board will have the final say, but these are the locations that we're saying as an administration to the board that if you decide to sell them, we would be fine with that.
Chris Demerara.
Yes, thank you. Another option, I think, you know, the Genesee County Land Bank is probably the largest landholder in the city. There might be an opportunity to sell a property that we think, we might use it, but that property that the land bank has is much better. And maybe, you know, we could look at large holdings that the land bank has, see if there's something where they may want to do a swap, or we sell our property and then buy theirs, just because they may have a superior location than what we have. Because you're right, if, Superintendent, if we give up some properties to acquire 10, 15, 20 acres, excuse me, in the city would be pretty hard. Just,
We wouldn't want to go out and try to buy property to put a school on when we have all of this property right now, you know.
yes, but in regards to the land bank, what I'm saying is their empty large parcel might be
Gotcha.
in a better location than ours.
Got you, understood.
And
The
then
swap
if-
situation.
Yeah, and then if we got ahead of ourselves and did sell the property and then need another property 2 years down the road, it'd be hard to find because there's not a whole lot of 20-acre pieces of parcel in the city for sale.
Is there any more discussions?
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Superintendent Jones, on the I guess the renovations, and then we're looking at the sale. So from this list here, there's nothing going to, for sales. So the maybes, is a maybe to sell or to keep? Is that what the maybe is?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Okay.
sir. Based on more deliberation of what we're going to do, where we want
yeah.
to put a building, or
Yeah.
where we don't want to put a building, or we have to make those we have to make those decisions. The renovations is about open school buildings with children.
Okay,
So we're spending money on renovations where children actually are.
okay.
Yes,
gotcha.
sir.
That's-
Yes, sir.
that's it. You cleared it up for me.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Perfect.
I just want to chime in. So basically what our meeting was today was, the attorney asked us to break it down, what is it that we're going to sell. The board, we would look at, the 13 buildings here, and we can make a motion. We are in agreement that these 13 buildings can be sold. We're gonna hold on to the keeps and the maybes. Do y'all understand that? You have any question?
Madam President, now when you say number 2, defined timeline,
Number 2, oh no, we're doing one at a time. The
Okay.
first thing he wanted us
Yeah,
to do,
okay.
so we don't hold, so they can start the process on the
okay, I
sale.
got you.
So, board member, I would like to entertain a motion and a second to approve the sale of the following,
Before you, I'm
Okay,
sorry.
go ahead.
But before you make that motion, is it, Philip, that we have to go with all 13 right now? Or can the board decide to go with half of the 13? And board members, if you want more time to kind of talk through some of these properties that we put on for sale, if he can just get started with half, then you're not putting yourself in a situation to where you might take one back. So and board president, you do what you want. I'm just saying, you might want to go with 8 instead of 13, but if you want to go with my plan, I'm fine with that too.
well, I would just speak to the board.
Yep.
When I was looking through it, my idea was the same as these, because we still have, how many open buildings? We still have. so many
We have
schools.
11.
We have 11 plus the maybes and the keep. And the goal is now that the public had waited long enough on this board, and some of them been holding these proposals for a while, and the rule was on request of the attorney that we make a decision. I don't see why we need to hold on to these 13 when we got 11 plus some more that we're dealing with expense to us.
Yes, ma'am.
And I think the administration done a great job waking us up and giving us some good ideas, and that's just my opinion. So I would like to lead into a motion, is that's fine? I would like to entertain a motion and a second to approve the sale of the following property: Cook Elementary, Dort Elementary, Garfield Elementary, Johnson Elementary, King Elementary, Lower Middle School, Manley Elementary, Merle Elementary, Stewart, Washington, Williams, Wickinson, and the Zimmerman Center.
Yes, Wilkins, that's correct.
Yes. So I need I made a motion, we need a second.
Support.
Support and second. Are there any questions?
Yes.
Seeing no, yes, Chris?
So can we go through these 13 properties real quick and identify which ones have a building on and which ones do not?
Mr. Jones?
Which ones are a building?
I have a building on it, and which ones are just
Land,
vacant land for the most part? I mean, Washington's kind of is burnt down.
yeah.
I think all of them except for,
Washington,
Washington still is a building, it's just burned down. But
You're
still-
right.
So all of these properties are still buildings. Are you saying burned or, because Zimmerman had a fire, Washington had a fire. I would have to do a little bit more research to make sure that we're clear on all of those. But it's buildings on each one of these properties.
oh, okay.
It's buildings on each one of the properties.
But I mean, to be fair, there's rubble at Washington, not a building.
That's true. And
So-
at Zimmerman, there's rubble.
Okay. And I'm just, so obviously there's, I mean, we were given that original list of what, 11,
That's the yellow list.
which included Northwestern, and there were some people that had interest in Northwestern. So something like that, why is that not on here, or what?
Because Northwestern is not vacant, and also the board had decided that there's a possibility of reimagining Northwestern. So we didn't put the high schools on here, so that we have a little bit more time to reimagine those. So we're using Northwestern, but I can also see a future there.
Sure.
And so putting those schools on the vacant property list would mean that we're either going to sell them, right, or we're going to keep them, or maybe, but they're not vacant. It's not vacant. So the schools that I'm aware of that we had fires was Zimmerman and Washington. The other schools, some of them have been closed since 2005, 2008, 2011. And it's in the book, the list of properties, book, and you can get that information from there. For those that are going to be looking into these properties, that's their due diligence. They have to go, look at the property, determine what they want to do, and come back, right? That's a part.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, once the board approves the sale or authorizes the sale of these 13 properties, then we'll release basically a request for proposals, notice of conditions.
Yep.
That'll talk about the due diligence period, a walkthrough inspection, and finally a purchase agreement or a lease agreement.
Yeah. And so after you get through this motion, Board President,
I'm good, thank you.
you can talk about some in-kind.
Okay, yes.
So, Madam Chair, so
Yes, Pastor Gilbert.
once we take action on these 13, then that's when it actually, the ball starts to go, as you just said, Attorney Clark, and the RFPs and everything, the process really starts.
Yes,
So
they takes over from
they take over from
Yeah,
there.
they
That's,
just need us to make a decision.
yeah.
Are there any more questions from anyone that has not spoken? Are there any questions? Seeing no further question, the motion approved to sale of the following property mentioned shall be conducted by a roll call vote. As I call your name, please say yes or no. Trustee Green is absent. Assistant Secretary Treasurer Del Maroney.
Yes.
Trustee Gilbert.
Yes,
Secretary Booth.
Yes.
Vice President McIntosh is absent. Treasurer McIntyre.
Yes.
Myself, President McNeil, yes. 5 yes, 2 absent. I also want to, thank you. I also want to mention that the board, we have discussed and having continuing conversations and about doing a couple of in-kind to the community. The board approved a community partnership agreement. That agreement can validate why we might be looking at helping the community about doing some type of in-kind service to cover this property. And we have not made a decision totally about that, but we are looking at, some of the people came up with some great ideas to serve the community. I want the community to keep in mind that this is big property that we're looking at. You might be doing in-kind, so you got to look at working with other groups as well. So having those discussions among your community grassroots. So if you got and I just use this as a school, suppose we had a school like this, then you would look at partnering with other groups and just say, well, this is the in-kind, this group can come in, it's a lot of space where everybody can do different programs at. So that is some of the things that we're looking at to give back to the community and so the grassroots and other people can serve the community. I just want to put that out there. We just in the baby face of it, just in a conversation part of it. Mr. Jones, you have anything else you want to add?
Absolutely. I commend the board for thinking about those groups out there that, have some ideas for the community. I just want to make sure that the community understands that Flint Community Schools is trying to get these properties off of our books. We are dealing in a deficit, and we want to make sure that we are doing our due diligence for the children. Right now, our children are suffering from having all of these properties. So although we want to do some in-kind, and I agree with the board, I'm 100% behind that, we want to make sure that you can handle it. We want to make sure you can handle it if we're going to do, and you take over the property, meaning that this property is no longer a Flint Community School property. It will be those groups or whatever you decide to do. But when the board speaks of an in-kind contribution, it may not be a total sale or of a higher price. It might be something that we say, hey, we like what you're about to do in the community. We want to, give a contribution and hand this building over for however we're supposed to do that. We will follow our attorneys on that. But it needs to be something that's going to give back to our community and to our scholars. We are not looking to give something that will not service our babies, service the scholars and the adults in our community. We're looking for something that will service our scholars and the adults in the community, and will be effective for the future of Flint Community Schools as well. So just wanted to point that out, Board
Thank you.
President. Very excited about where we are and the opportunity we have to give back to our community. And glad to see so many of our community members out in this meeting with us. So thank you, Board President.
Being said, and all of those good things we're doing, since the community had listened to what we have spoken on and what we have passed, is there anybody from the community? We have an attorney here. This is a good time to ask questions. We got, excuse me.
With the
Oh,
agenda,
hold on.
I
Right.
just wondered if there was, if we said define a timeline.
Is the timeline, when we said define the timeline, what the timeline that you was looking for?
Sales.
The sales?
The timeline would be how
Thanks,
long we
thanks.
want to entertain bids. So we'll release the RFP, the notice of conditions, and say, hey, you have to submit a bid or proposal by X date. It would be my recommendation to allot 60 days to submit a bid. And within that time frame, there's a walkthrough inspection that would be done. And I would recommend that it just be all together. Otherwise, we're there, every day of the week for each of these buildings. So that's what I mean by a time frame. How long do we want to entertain bids? The window for bids.
And your recommendation is 60 days?
Yes,
Okay.
but it's really up to the board how long. It can be 30 days, 60, 90.
So could we
Okay.
possibly be specific and make, let the public know kind of what our general timeline would be? Of course, allowing for flexibility for unforeseen circumstances or, something else, but at least give an idea of what we mean in terms of now that we've released certain properties to be up for RFP, for sale, for lease, for consideration. Now, what is our timeline? Please.
So I would definitely think, I'm sorry, Board President, did you have something?
No,
Okay.
go ahead.
All right. So the first thing I would definitely say to the public is you have to have a plan.
Thanks, Lauren.
You have to have a plan as it pertains to when we put these out for RFP. If you're going to go for the in-kind, you have to have a plan for that. But if you want to buy a building, you have, you need to make sure that this is going to be on our website. This is going to be on our website, flintschools.org, flintschools.org. And so I think, Mr. Clark, if we could get together to find out when we want to start those bids, then we can get it out to our public. And maybe in our next board meeting, we can announce the date. Because you're going to need some time to, yeah.
Yeah, it wouldn't take long. The RFP is just pretty much a 2-page document that we've
Okay.
prepared. Yeah, it's just a matter of getting it on the website in 60 days or whatever time frame you decide from that release, yeah.
So can we say, because I know our board wants to get this done, can we say July 1?
Oh, for the release of the RFP? Yeah, of course. Yeah,
Can we
that's
say
no
July
problem at
1?
all. Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then we get it on our website, maybe June 30th, July 1, and it's all up for the properties, and then they begin to submit, the public begin to submit. Now, will we have a directions document of how to do this, or they just go to they go to the document, the RFP document, and then they just fill it out? How does that work?
They'll submit the bids to us. Let's see here, and then those bids will be opened on a certain date. From there, the board will take action whether to accept or to entertain a presentation or, but to take formal action after that bid submission date.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want the public to understand what they have to do. So they'll go to our website, and they will go to the properties, whatever we put up for that to go to. Am I saying this right? I just want to make sure I'm right. And they'll click on that, fill out that paperwork, and follow the instructions on the paperwork.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, all
Actually,
right.
how I have it now is the bids must be received at the district's administrative offices on X date. So that's how I have it set up.
So you asked about instructions. So basically what I'm hearing being said is there are no instructions. Is that something that we could do to help facilitate the community in responding to an RFP in a way that would be,
If I can jump in, the instructions are in the RFP. You know, really, it's your proposal by X date. Whether you want to lease it, whether you want to buy it, whether you have an in-kind, you know, exchange in mind. But really, that's the long and short of it.
Okay.
So, can I say something?
Yes, ma'am, I'm sorry.
In your package, I just want to make clear, we have the form notice of conditions. And that, so would the public have this available to them, or do we have to make this form available to them on the website? We call it the form notice of conditions, and then I think the other one is something else. It's in your booklet that you got, I just got mine,
The one we received the other day.
that Monica passed out yesterday. Was it yesterday? You got this?
It was Monday at the other session.
Uh-huh.
It's
So,
Monday.
it got the notice of condition of the bid and sale of property, Flint Community School, Genesee County. And then on the second page,
I know which one you're talking
yeah, and it talks about the other bids. So what I'm asking, Attorney Clark, is that's what the public would need to have? What we have?
Yes, that's what will be posted by July 1 for each of the properties
Okay.
for sale or lease.
Attorney Clark, a lot of our RFPs, they submit electronically. I would rather them submit this to you electronically instead
Okay.
of bringing them down to the office, because this would be another whole duty for someone, and we don't have that someone. We're already about to lose, Ms. Elston. So I would like them to submit these to you
Okay.
in your offices. Board, if you're okay with that, it's just smoother for us.
That's what the
Okay.
procedure was, before we got into the last, and that
Okay.
the attorney
Attorneys
firm,
handle
the handler will handle all of that. That's, we turn that, after we approve we're going to sell, we turn it back over to you, and you handle the process from that point.
Yeah, that works too.
Okay.
Yep.
Madam President,
Yeah.
Superintendent Jones. So if they go to the website, flintschool.org, is that what it is? Now, it better be up to snuff.
I'm gonna handle it.
You gonna handle
I'm
it?
gonna handle it.
Okay.
You got it.
So when they go to the website, it's gonna direct them to Troom's Farm, Troom's Farm.
It's going to direct them to the RFP, and then whatever information
Okay.
he wants up, it'll be
It'll
connected
be
in there as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Great job. Are there any more comments
Yes.
or questions? Trustee Delmaroni?
Thank you, Board President. At least two. One is, I understand the concept of a sealed bid through the mail or brought into an office. How do you keep or make the bid sealed electronically? I've never submitted one or received one that way.
Yeah, sure. The bids don't have to be sealed for this process. This is all to promote transparency, and there's no requirement that the bids be sealed in the first place.
Okay, I guess my concern is that as the deadline approaches to submit the bids, that the highest bid could be leaked for someone to bid $1 more. So is there a way that we can seal that bid?
I mean, we could have the bids mailed to our office, if that's what you prefer.
Point of information.
Yes.
Even though they're gonna submit a bid, the board would make the final decision on if we're gonna even sell it for that price, so you don't even have to have a sealed envelope. These are people coming in with a bid. We look at the property, we look at the bid, and the board determine if this is a good price, or do we raise the price, or do we, so that's the final decision of the board. So it would not have to be who bid the highest, who came in first, because all of this come back for the board, and the board makes that final decision.
Yes, yeah, exactly. This is a little different than
Yes.
construction work or contractors where you have to award it to the lowest responsible bidder. This is, the board has a much broader discretion.
Okay.
Any
And
more questions?
I thought I had one more, but, no.
Take your
No.
time.
Oh, I had
Take
one.
your time.
I-
Yes,
Superintendent Jones and to Attorney Clark. Now, what is the criteria for the RFP or the plan, or what, is it any stipulations or anything in that RFP, in that part, as to what is to be considered, or that will be the determination of Attorney Clark's office? In other words, I make a bid, and I got a couple of steps in my plan, but I haven't really given a lot of details. Long as I go by what the RFP is requesting, then, you take a look at it.
So Pastor, there's a difference between the in-kind contributions, that the board is asking for a plan, tell me what you're gonna do.
Okay,
Then
gotcha.
just
Thank you.
selling properties.
Yes, okay.
Like, For the 13 properties, currently,
We're
we're
just
selling
talking
properties
money.
until the board decides what schools,
Right.
or what, if someone submit plans to the board, I think that's a little bit different than this RFP process as it pertains to
Okay.
the in-kind contributions. That's a separate thing. So that, he's putting up RFPs for selling these properties.
That's the only thing, it's just selling.
Selling these
Gotcha,
properties.
gotcha.
So if the board decides, hey, we're gonna take Merle, and we're gonna take Stewart, and we're gonna take Wilkins, and we're gonna do in-kind contributions for them, then he's gonna take them off the market,
Right,
and then the board will determine what they wanna do with Stewart and Wilkins.
right,
So
right.
that's just examples.
Okay,
You get what I'm saying?
I do.
Okay.
I got it.
Am I right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Chris Demaroni?
And we have, if I understood correctly, we have the flexibility, the option to say no for any reason, a reason, no reason. Okay.
Yes, yeah, exactly. I mean, just because we issue this RFP doesn't mean the board has to accept any offers that come in.
And the bidders will know that as they're coming in, that maybe it won't get sold.
Yeah, exactly. It's up to the board, the final decision.
So are we all clear?
All my mind is clear.
All
So
clear.
July 1.
July the 1st is the release of the RFP, and then it turns back over to the attorney. The attorney will take care of everything and get back with us, and then that's when the board come back and make other decision while we making decision about renovation and everything else we have to do. So we have accomplished a great task here. The property goes up for sale as we speak. Is there anything else that we have not covered? Being said, seeing no further business, I declare the board workshop session adjourned at,
You're gonna allow for,
comments, yeah, I did.
oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Do you want me to do it again, though?
You were about to, and then I interrupted you.
Oh, did anyone from the public have any question they want to address to the attorney or the board regarding the property? We just want to make sure, stand up, you can line up and stand right here, you have about 3 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Bernard.
This is a great
Drew.
opportunity to do it.
Question is super simple. I appreciate the precision, the accuracy, the harmony. My question is just this easy. If the July the 1st is the date for the RFPs to go out, 60 days to get them back in, is there a time frame that the board anticipates to deliberate and consider those proposals? Making a decision by November, by February of next year? Is that something that's already been defined?
When the attorney gives it back to us, then we would probably be having that conversation since probably in one of our next meeting, if that's possible, that's, you know, have it in our next meeting. Hopefully the board can get together and have that conversation at our next meeting. Because I don't think we'll have all of them at the same time,
So
right?
we're looking October, November.
Okay.
Because you have 60 days, right? You have 60 days. Of course, the board is going to want to look at it, whether you do a committee of the whole, you know, or you bring whatever you did in the committee of the whole, you bring it to the regular board meeting to speak out about your decision or whatever. But I think the board's going to need some time because we're talking 13 properties. So I would say October, November, depending on the properties that are moving forward, because some may not, right? Some may not move as fast as others. So I think we can start around that time, getting some things moving. What do you say, Mr. Clark?
Yeah, I mean, whatever the board's availability is there for those 60 days, availability and time for, like you said, consideration.
October, November.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it.
Good question. Anyone else? Seeing no further business, I declare the board workshop session adjourned at 6:27. Thank you very much, everybody. And you can always, huh?
You gotta hit that.
Oh, yeah. And you can always contact the office if you have any questions.